The territory occupied by the Copperheads and the associated tribes lies west of the Rocky Mountains in the high latitudes, extending so far north as the Russian possessions. Their hunting grounds cover a space of several hundred miles, and the natural characteristics of the country are much diversified. Barren mountain ranges alternate with wide plains, fruitful valleys, and dense forests. We met with but few rivers in our hunt, but from the Eskimo and a few stragglers belonging to tribes on the east side of the mountains, we had reports of many rivers and big waters on the other side. Our northern headquarters is about a week's journey from the Arctic Ocean. To the northeast of us, about 2 weeks' journey, was Big Eskimo Village. The climate in the northern part of our hunting ground is cold through the greater part of the year, and the ground is mostly covered with snow. The trees in this region are of pine, cedar, white hemlock, and some other kinds. During the greater part of the year, they remain bare, but as soon as the temperature begins to moderate a little, the leaves come out about the size of a squirrel's ear. They continue out but for a short time, when they drop off, and the tree is once more bare. The elk, reindeer, and the ponies of the Indians all feed on the bark of the trees and the moss. Snow falls repeatedly during the year, but no rain. There are numerous storms. With the Eskimo, who live on the shores of the Arctic Ocean, our tribes often had skirmishes. The Eskimo are a dirty people, generally short, thick-set, with matted hair, and afflicted with scurvy. They wrap themselves up in furs and live on any kind of carrion. They will eat worms, bugs, or snakes when they cannot get the game, but their principal luxury is oil. They make oil from the carcasses of the animals they obtain and enjoy it as a great luxury. They live in huts made of snow and ice, and when moving from place to place, they have tents made of furs and skins. In traveling, they use sleds drawn by reindeer and dogs. The Copperheads never have sleds, but use ponies and elk, both for riding and packing game and other burdens. The Copperheads principally traded with the Russians and made trips to them several times a year. They also sent an expedition twice a year to the Red River settlement in St. Paul. All the dried meats, furs, and other articles are packed on the backs of ponies and elks or carried by women and such captives as are in the keeping of the tribe. The mode of packing on the backs of women is for a belt, 3 fingers wide, to be passed across the forehead and lying down the back. The pack is placed to rest on the bottom of the belt and lies on the shoulders and neck. The bearer is obliged to stoop forward in walking, and the back is frequently bent from this cause. Being a captive, I was sometimes compelled to carry a load but about 15 pounds less than my weight, and the squaws have to carry within about 20 pounds of their weight. We obtained blankets, powder, rifles, and other necessary articles from the Russians in exchange for furs and dried meats. Among other things purchased by the Russians, the tribe possessed a compass and a watch, enclosed in a copper case. They learned the use of the compass sufficiently to enable them to travel with its aid. The lodges are made of poles stuck in the ground and tied together at the top to leave a hole in the center. Furs and skins are then fastened around and made tight, except at the entrance. A fire is built in the center of the lodge, and the lodge members creep in and sleep with their feet to the fire and their heads to the side of the lodge. In traveling, when the snow is on the ground and the party does not take the lodge fixtures along, the snow is stamped down and blankets spread on the hardened snow. On this, the Indian lies down and rolls himself up in the blanket. With this mode of sleeping, there is no danger of taking a cold. When the snow is very deep and light, the hunters wear snowshoes to prevent their sinking at every step. The ponies are also shod with wide moccasins stuffed with hair when the snow is so deep that they cannot travel with ease. The beasts of burden used by the Indians are ponies, elks, and dogs. Both elks and ponies have to be broken into submission to man before they can be used. When Indians want to break in a pony for riding, one of them mounts a well-broken pony, and after riding around for a little while, suddenly dashes up to the untamed pony and, seizing it by the mane, leaps on its back. The first effort of the surprised animal is to throw the unexpected burden over its head, or failing in this, to rise on its hind legs and throw its rider backward. To prevent either of these purposes from being accomplished, the rider clasps his arms around the neck of the pony and crosses his legs under its belly so that the toes are inserted between the forelegs of the animal. By these means, the pony is rendered unable to jerk the rider off in any direction. Foiled in its efforts to dislodge the unusual encumbrance on its back, the pony generally sets off in a wild gallop, in which it is indulged by the rider, and an unexpected difficulty of breathing soon brings the unruly beast to terms. As soon as it gets somewhat tired of its useless excitements, the rider steals his hand down to its nose and there holds some sugar and salt. If the animal proves insensible to the temptation thus held out, the rider gradually works his hand up until he gets some of the mixture into its mouth. The taste of these articles is generally sufficient to subdue the strong will of the pony, and to complete the work, the rider puffs tobacco smoke up its nostrils. It is now thoroughly broken in, and will sit easily under a rider, or follow its owner like a dog. The Indian never abuses his horse, but always treats it as a friend. The elk is of great service to the Indians in high latitudes, and shares with the pony the attention of its owner. The method of catching and taming elk is for one hunter to throw a lasso or running noose at the end of a long line on one horn, whilst another hunter does the same to the other horn. The lines are then quickly made fast to two trees, and the hind legs are tied to two other trees in a similar manner. Whilst thus fastened in a nearly immovable position, the man who is to break in, the animal comes up and leaps on his back. The ropes are simultaneously cut by the other Indians, and the elk dashes off with its burden. The rider embraces the horns with his arms and crosses his feet below the belly of the animal, as in breaking ponies. The elk pursues his headlong career for miles, the branching horns preventing his dashing among the trees in such a manner as to hurt the rider. After the elk is thoroughly spent by his long scamper, it is treated in the same manner as the case of ponies. The weapons of the snakes and copperheads consist of rifles, bows and arrows, spears, tomahawks, hunting knives, scalping knives, and war clubs. The arrowheads are made of flint, and much care is used in digging up, selecting, and splitting the proper kind of flint. The pipes are also made of flint and take a large amount of patience and labor in their manufacture. The pipe I made for myself was first squared out from flint and then drilled with a steel implement, worked by hand. I worked 30 days to complete the boring process, using bear's oil and water to moisten the stone. After the hole was bored, another steel chisel was taken, and the pipe chipped into proper shape. In doing the chiseling, the pipe was placed between two other stones to act as a vise, and the hole was pressed between my knees. Then I chipped away, using my clenched hand as a mallet. After the pipe had been chipped into shape and then ornamented with cut designs, it was first oiled and then dyed a pale red with a pigment extracted from a root. A stem of cherry or other wood inserted in this pipe completes it.